Now, let me go. Now, 49. So they, so that they should forgive the law and change all the ordinance. And whosoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. In such words, he wrote to his whole kingdom, taken over by Alexander the Great, and appointing inspectors over all the peoples, and commanded the cities of Judea to offer sacrifice, city by city. Many of the peoples, every one who forsook the law, John, forsook the law, John them, and they did evil in the land. They drove Israel into hiding in every place of refuge they had. So, in other words, Israel was talking about the whole congregation. It was Isaac, Jacob, and then it was Israel. Isaac identified the son of Abraham. Jacob identified the son of Isaac. Israel identified the 12 sons of Jacob. Whether you believe it or not Ishmael. Now on the 15th day of Chislev, Chislev, in the 140th year, they created a desolation sacrilege upon the altar of burnt offering. They also built altars in the surrounding city of Judea and burned incense at the door of the house and in the streets. The book of the law, which came from Moses, which they found, they tore to pieces and burned with fire. Where the book of the covenant was found in the possession of anyone, or if anyone overheard to the law, the decree of the king condemned him to death. They kept using violence against Israel, against those found months after months in the cities, and on the 25th day of the month they offered sacrifices on the altar, which was upon the altar of burnt offering, according to the decree. They put to death the woman who had their children circumcised, and their families, and those who circumcised them, and they hung the infants from their neck, their mother's neck. But many in Israel stood firm, and were resolved in their hearts not to eat unclean food. They chose to die rather than to be defiled by food or to profane the holy covenant. And they did die, and very great wrath came upon Israel. Okay. I read this part because I connected it, went back and connected it with my part time, where God had them to do this. See what I'm talking about? Now, I took you back to the part where he told Abraham to circumcise his kid. But in that Genesis 17:9, he told us his covenant was going to be made with Isaac, not with Ishmael. And it shows you there was a plague from the Gentiles who had gone into the land of Abraham, trying to defile the covenant children, abandoning his country, which was up in the north, and interbreeding with the seed of Abraham, creating a lighter color race with a more high pigment count because he had an interbreed with a children who was black. All of these new processes was taking place until he can create and manufacture a place, a habitat where he can create air conditioning through technology and everything and become a people with great authority and great ability because of the way of their technology. But this was before Jesus was born. Even when Jesus was born under the Roman Empire part, they had not grown into technology. Now, let's go to Genesis 17, 18. This part here, that part there where I carried you to Genesis 17, 9-10 is where God took him and told him to circumcise his children. You see where Alexander the Great came in later on and caused them not to do this here. And you see Genesis 17, 18, where Abraham said unto God, "Oh, that Ishmael might go live before you." This is where we get the confusion at, where they said Ishmael was the seed child. Islam teaches you this in part of that. I don't know where they got this book, but I've seen this. But they claim Jesus was another prophet, but he wasn't. Because God made me a part of that sacrifice which we three were slain in Bible prophecy. Jesus wasn't but three of us. Jesus was the middle. He became the mercy seat. If you look at the Ark of the Covenant, where by design, Jesus was the mercy seat with the two cherubims on one end and one on the other end. One of them was born by the spirit of Elijah, and the other one was going to be born by myself, who lived by the spirit of Moses, who would be born with Jesus Christ in the flesh to prove that Jesus Christ was not the seed of the substance of a man, but living by the spirit of the holy living God. Now, Maccabees, he said, and Genesis 17, 18, and above, and Abraham said unto God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." And God said, "Sarah your wife shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him by an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him." He didn't say nothing about Ishmael. You see this? Because if any man proclaim he's a man of God and preach Ishmael, he's a lying prophet. Flee from him. It's no different than a white wolf and a black wolf. No different than a brown fox and a white fox. If you get consumed by one, using the belly of the fox. If you can't get consumed by the other, using the belly of a lion. Genesis 17:20. As for Ishmael, I have heard, behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall be begat, and shall he begat, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time appointed. In the next year. So, if anybody will tell you Ishmael was God's seed part, flee from that man. So God established his seed with Isaac to be born under covenant law to connect the white race with the black race.